Vladimir Putin has managed to survive an astonishing 43 assassination attempts since he became president of Russia. But how, you may ask? The Russian president has been in office for over 22 years, and during his time in power, there have been numerous threats to his life. Yet somehow, some way, he's still alive. So how exactly has he managed to survive 43 assassination attempts? Well, that's what we're going to take a look at today. But before we do, as always, if you appreciate content like this, it does help out tremendously if you show your support. Thank you. And let's begin. So the fact that Vladimir Putin has survived 43 assassination attempts is truly remarkable. It's hard to believe that anyone could have so many close calls with death and still be alive. But the truth is, Putin has managed to escape certain death on several occasions. The question is, how? Well, the first thing you need to know about Vladimir Putin is that he is a very private person. He keeps his personal life very close to the vest and doesn't share much about himself with the public. This level of privacy makes it difficult for anyone to get close enough to him to carry out an assassination. After all, if you do know where he's going to be or who he's going to be with, it's hard to carry out an attack. Another thing that works in Putin's favor is the fact that he has an incredibly tight security detail. Wherever he goes, he is surrounded by bodyguards and security personnel who are trained to protect him at all costs. These people are some of the best in the business, and they would literally take a bullet for him if necessary. In addition to these two factors, there's also the fact that many of the people who want Putin dead are in prison or have been killed themselves. Over the years, the Russian government has been very proactive in taking out people who pose a threat to Putin's life. This includes both foreign nationals and Russian citizens. For example, in 2000, a Russian man named Sergei K. Mikolov attempted to assassinate Putin. While he was visiting the Russian city of St. Petersburg, Mikolov opened fire on Putin's motorcade, but he was quickly apprehended and sentenced to 17 years in prison. Similarly, in 2009, a group of Chechen separatists planned to assassinate Putin at the same venue, but their plot was uncovered and thwarted by Russian authorities. These are just two examples of the many times that Putin's security services have managed to keep him safe from harm. As a result, the vast majority of assassination attempts against him have been unsuccessful. Despite all of these precautions, there have still been a few close calls. In 2012, for example, a woman tried to attack Putin with a pair of scissors. She was apparently angry about something Putin had said about her country, Ukraine, and she wanted to get revenge. Fortunately, Putin's bodyguards were able to stop her before she could do any damage. Similarly, in 2015, a man jumped out of a crowd and tried to stab Putin in the chest. Again, the bodyguards intervened and saved the day. And in 2018, a man threw a Molotov cocktail at Putin's motorcade, but it didn't explode. These are just a few of the other assassination attempts that have been made on Putin's life. While he has managed to escape serious injury every time, it's only a matter of time before one of these attempts is successful. And when it is, Putin's days in power will likely be numbered. As we mentioned earlier, Putin is a very private person and doesn't share much about himself publicly. This makes it difficult to say why exactly he has so many enemies. However, we can make some educated guesses. After all, Putin has been in power for over 22 years. And during that time, he's made a lot of powerful enemies. For example, in 2000, when he first took office, he was responsible for the deaths of two former Russian presidents, Boris Yeltsin and Mikhail Gorbachev. Both men died under suspicious circumstances, and many people believe that Putin had them killed. Of course, this is just speculation, but it's possible that these deaths created enemies of Putin even before he took office. In addition to these two deaths, Putin has also been responsible for the deaths of numerous journalists and opposition figures. For example, in 2006, a journalist named Anna Politkovskaya was shot dead in the elevator of her apartment building. She had been critical of Putin in the past, and many people believe that he had her killed. Similarly, in 2015, another journalist, Pavel Gubarev, was poisoned in what is believed to be an attempt on his life. He too had been critical of Putin, and many people believe that this was an attempt to silence him. These are just a few examples of the many people who believe that Putin has had them killed or tried to have them killed. Clearly, Putin has made a lot of enemies over the years, and it's only a matter of time before one of them gets the upper hand. When Putin was first elected president of Russia in 2000, he was seen as a young and dynamic leader. Under his leadership, Russia seemed poised for a new era of prosperity and growth. However, in recent years, Putin has become increasingly autocratic, and his regime has been characterized by human rights abuses and the suppression of dissent. Many Russians are now calling for a change in leadership, and they see Putin's continued rule as a threat to their democracy. This growing opposition to Putin is one of the reasons why he has so many enemies. Those who oppose his policies and his regime see him as a dangerous and oppressive leader, and they would be willing to do anything to get rid of him. Another reason why Putin has so many enemies is because he is seen as a threat to the interests of the United States and its allies. For example, in 2014, he annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine, which led to widespread condemnation from the international community. He has also been accused of meddling in elections in other countries, such as the United States and France, and he has been involved in a number of conflicts in the former Soviet Union, including the war in Afghanistan, the war in Syria, and the ongoing war in Ukraine. All of these actions have made him a target of the United States and its allies, and it's only a matter of time before one of them takes action against him. So why hasn't he been assassinated yet? Well, as we mentioned earlier, Putin has a very tight security detail, and he is a very private person. This makes it difficult for his enemies to get close enough to him to carry out an assassination. Additionally, many of his enemies are in prison or have been killed by the Russian government. However, we should also mention that not everyone wants Putin dead. There are still many people in Russia and around the world who support him and his policies. In fact, he is one of the most popular politicians in the world, with an approval rating of over 80% in Russia. So while there are many people who want him dead, there are also many people who would defend him with their lives. As things stand right now, it seems unlikely that Putin will be assassinated anytime soon. He has a very tight security detail, and his enemies are either in prison or dead. However, as we mentioned earlier, there have been a few close calls, and it's only a matter of time before one of these attempts is successful. When it is, Putin's days in power will likely be numbered. We should also mention that there are a number of challenges that Putin faces that have nothing to do with his enemies. For example, he has been in power for over 22 years, and many Russians are simply ready for a change. Additionally, the economy of Russia has been in decline in recent years, and this has led to widespread discontent among the population. Finally, the war in Ukraine has been a costly and unpopular conflict, and it has put a strain on Putin's leadership. All of these factors could lead to the downfall of Putin regardless of whether or not he is assassinated. In conclusion, Vladimir Putin has managed to survive an astonishing 43 assassination attempts since he became president of Russia. He is a very private person with an incredibly tight security detail. It is difficult for his enemies to get close enough to him to carry out an attack. However, many of his enemies are in prison or have been killed by the Russian government. There are still a few who would love to see him dead. But for now, it seems unlikely that Putin will be assassinated. As things stand right now, Putin has managed to survive 43 assassination attempts. But with so many people wanting him dead, it's only a matter of time before one of these attempts is successful. When it is, Putin's days in power will likely be numbered.